Here we go. All right. Yeah, thanks everybody for coming to the third community call. Like I said earlier, we're going to be talking about finalizing lightning talk speakers and topics for workshops. Hopefully it's not too difficult to come to consensus on those topics. Yeah, we'll be going through, if we roll through that stuff, we'll just kind of go into a general chat. Does anybody have any questions before we begin and go through maybe some intros on who's on the call? Cool, no raised hands. So I guess I'll start it off. My name is Kevin Seagraves, helping lead the ETHSecurity community, and I'm contracting with Gitcoin currently, working on ERC 948 stuff and meta transactions in the Gitcoin grants project. Dan, do you want to go next?
Hey. Blockchain security tools. I'm on vacation right now. I'm in a Airbnb, just down in to say hello.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dan. Rocky, how about you?
Okay, so I'm Rocky Bernstein. It says Robert on the screen, but I'm Rocky. Just started at Consensus, and my interests there are in getting a public benchmark suite. So most of the stuff you've seen on the Telegram has been related to that. My background is more in compilers and that kind of thing, and I work for the Mithril team.
Okay, Mitch, do you want to go?
Sure bet. My name is Mitch Kozowski. I'm with the ETH Prize Initiative, which funds groups, bounties for groups to work on pain points in the Ethereum ecosystem. Security is super duper interesting. Very much looking forward to the unconference, and hopefully we have some nice bounties coming out of that as well.
Sweet. Isaac?
Hi, everyone. I'm Isaac. I'm a blockchain developer at Bloom, and I'm a consumer of security tools, but I just like hearing about what you guys are building.
Awesome. Petrus? Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I'm really new here. I've literally been transitioning out of a principal product manager role at Quantum Black, which is a AI consultancy part of McKinsey, and now sort of spending 80% of my time working on a dynamic analysis tool for security. So really early stages, but hoping to be able to provide a tool for auditors.
What's the security tool called? Or is it out there right now?
Not out there. It's called auditless.com. But there's nothing out there, but I'd be happy to get in touch with you once I have next set of MVPs ready.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Jared and Olga, you guys want to go next?
Yeah, thanks. Hey, I'm Jared from PointSnap. I do some of the community stuff around here, and
I'm still Olga. I'm a strategist at PointSnap, and it's great to be with all of you guys again. I'm looking forward to Germany.
Yeah, I'm getting excited.
Cool. Maybe let's hear from Adam.
Yeah, hey, we are auditors, smart contract auditors with Solidified, joining from Prague. I'm Adam, and this is Nick. Yeah.
Cool. Jakub?
Hi, this is Jakub or Jacob. I am new here too. Hello, everybody. I run SolidStamp, which is an on-chain registry of smart contract audits. And this is basically what I would like to talk also during the Unconf in Berlin.
Cool. And it looks like Yondonfu, is that your name or is that just your handle?
Yeah, I'm Yondon. Yeah, that's
okay.
about right. Everyone, I'm Yondon. I lead smart contract dev at LivePeer, decentralized video streaming protocol. As I think Isaac mentioned earlier, more of a consumer of security tools, but just interested in learning more from this community.
Sweet. I think that's everybody. Is there anybody who didn't get a chance to intro themselves?
Yeah, hello. I'm Lucas. I'm from Solidity Berlin. I'm a smart contract developer and auditor, and looking forward for the unconference.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Again, yeah, I'm going to be taking notes on the agenda doc for this call today. Everybody should have a link in the chat if you want to follow along or add anything. So yeah, I guess first point of the call today is to look at the lightning talk abstracts that people have proposed, and we want to narrow them down to 8. And we kind of have the goals of ETHSecurity in general. I guess those goals are on the workshop group. I'll paste them over real quick. Trying to use these as a lens from which to judge the proposals. So I think we have 9 or 10. So I guess we'll maybe just go through each one and kind of look at the pros and cons of each, like whether we think they're relevant and useful to the group as a whole to see where the security community is currently. You know, there's going to be a little bit of a showcase on people's projects if that's kind of the case. But we're not trying to shine too much of a spotlight. It's more of this is what we've been working on and current state of the ecosystem. Yeah, any questions before we go through that? I'm planning on just like looking at the first abstract, and then we can then discuss it as a group. Yeah, any questions at this point?
Where are these abstracts again? I can't see them.
So in the chat, I shared the link to the Google Doc, and I can do that again. So let's see.
Sorry, there's like 6
here.
documents.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. I apologize.
Here we go. Oh, I didn't see the call for this go out. Oh well.
The one that I'm looking at ends in FONQIY.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Yep. Yeah, so this was put together after, I believe, the previous community call when we had originally had a call for proposals out on the discourse after week 1. We had 4 or 5 come through, and then we created this doc after last community call to try to get a more collaborative space going. So that's where these had come, and then I made a couple announcements in the group and let everybody know the deadline was yesterday for end of day. So I apologize about that if the communication wasn't great, but this is where we're at right now. We're trying to finalize so that we can get people, you know, working towards putting their presentation together. So first, the first abstract is from Bernard Mueller, talking about Mithril and kind of the roadmap. I think hearing from the Mithril team would be worthwhile. Does anybody have any strong opinions, you know, or can't live with Mithril being shared at the Unconf?
I'll just say that Bernhard had said that he was hoping to make this 20 minutes instead of 10, but whatever. So if there's extra time, fine, or maybe you can put them at the end or something like that.
Yeah, so I think as far as timing goes, we do have like an agenda for the day in one of these documents shared as well. So we've got 8 slots for lightning talks, and we're hoping to do a talk for about 10 minutes, and then maybe 2 or 3 minutes for Q&A, and then a couple of minutes for transition into the next talk. And so these are, you know, we're not trying to go very deep in any one topic. It's more of like sharing kind of experiences and best practices that we've already found, and displaying where the ecosystem and community is currently, And then more on the day is like, and then we'll be using momentum on kind of like what people have already done to inform what's happening in the workshops in the afternoon, as we try to form working groups around these different topics and desired outcomes. So this day is like hoping to, gain momentum, building towards these needed ideas, and give people some face-to-face time, networking, socialize, that sort of thing. That's the goal for the day.
So I'm sorry I didn't write down what you said. So it's 10 minutes, and then how many minute QA, and then the transition?
So we're imagining like a 10-minute talk,
Okay.
a 2 to 3 minute Q&A, and then like
Okay.
a 2 minutes for transition.
Okay. Great.
So the doc that's ending in EEMWL, that's the doc that is the unconference schedule. And so we've got talks from 9:20 to 10:20, a 20-minute break in between the second block of lightning talks from 10:40 to 11:40, and then we go into lunch at noon. So that's kind of the we're trying to get a quick number of talks in, and that's how we've got it lined out so far.
This one looks interesting to me. I definitely give a +1 to this one. And I will say, I think, it takes a lot longer to write a 10-minute talk than a 20-minute talk. But I think it keeps kind of everything flowing along. So I do appreciate that the constraint is nice there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think having more chances for people to talk with smaller slots is probably I think, better overall. Is my opinion.
Okay. Cool. So I guess next, going down the list, so looking at, Lucas from Solidity Berlin was wanting to talk about testing. So I assume these are truffle tests. Lucas, do you want to talk a little bit about this this lightning talk that you proposed?
Yeah, we just did a meta audit on different audits, and we feel that meta testing is doesn't play a big role in a lot of audits, and we want to talk about what we think is a proper testing and proper treatment of unit tests in smart contract audits, and the results we found in our meta audit. That's pretty much our talk. 10 minutes is not much, so yeah. Okay,
cool. Is there any strong objections to this sort of talk? I think it could have value.
One comment: I don't think I have any strong. I don't oppose any of the suggested talks, and I don't get why we need to narrow it down to 8 talks. But yeah, we can decide on this.
Sure. Well, the 8 talks, though, if we are putting in 10 or 12 that we have here, we do, then each one goes down to like 5 minutes of a talk, which is not much at all. So we're trying to keep it more unconferencey for the day, and not have it too scheduled. We're not trying to have an elite group that is handing down executive decisions on who's going to give what talk. We're trying to do it through the community, and that's kind of the process we're in right now. So if the community wanted to allow all of these talks, like, we could, but then that would not give much time to anyone. Yeah, that's any other
okay, then
opinions on
let's
that?
just go through the list and see with how many talks we will end up.
Sure. Well, I mean, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 talks right now. And so the idea was to examine the talks in the lens of the milestones. And we could talk about these milestones and using them as a lens to figure out which talks will be given. or if anybody else has a suggestion for a different process, I'm happy to hear that as well.
Well, maybe if we break it down based on sort of on a few of them are talking about sort of where we've come from, and then what the state is as well, and what that separation is. I wouldn't mind hearing. I mean, if this is the first ETHSecurity thing, it would be nice to get a bit of a catch up for people attending from, maybe beyond the last year. I think there was one or two talks in there that talks about sort of like one mentions the DAO hack, for example.
Mm-hmm. So you would like to hear kind of the history.
I mean, if I would find it useful. If we don't find it useful, then that's okay. But I'm just trying to propose something as a how we break this down as to what we who's able to speak, like what's useful with the allotted 8 slots.
So here's another idea. It's a little bit complementary complementing but orthogonal to what the other. Supposing there were 2 parallel talks, and so we say, okay, these are more tutorial, these are more something else. I don't know. We have so we break it down into those categories, but then we have 2 parallel talks. Then you wouldn't have to decide on any of them.
Okay, so I don't really want parallel talks. I'd really rather if we just have a single track. And I'd really like the talks to be only what we currently do, not forward-thinking talks about what we could do in the future. I want to know what the current state of the art is so that we can have a good discussion about how to improve it. So there are actually a few talks in here I don't think are a good fit. And I'd like to continue going through them so that we can narrow it down to only the ones that are the most useful for us to kick off the event with. So I'm actually happy to continue doing what Kevin was suggesting in the first place.
And basically,
yeah. So there does seem to be a couple different categories. So there's some that are around tools. There's some that are around like organization of the community, and maybe that's more forward facing. So the things that I'm seeing in that kind of category is Chris Brown has something about creating the wiki and repo. And there's also the one proposed by Joseph on unfragmenting the security community. And both of those, I think, are relevant and useful, but they are looking more forward. They could be workshop topics. Does anybody have an opinion on that? Or is that something you guys want to hear as a lightning talk, or do we want to work through that as a group in the afternoon?
Yeah, I don't want to get pitched in a lightning talk, so definitely work through that in the afternoon. What I want to talk about is I have already done X, Y, and Z, and here it is. Let me show you. Let's talk about how we could either improve it, or if we should improve it, or if we should continue working on it. Like,
I tend to agree with Dan.
The past and present state.
Okay. So so maybe we can put these 2 workshop topics.
Well, okay. So let me confess about one thing.
Sure.
So there's a lightning talk, which is the one that I proposed. The lightning talk will be about concrete stuff that I'm currently, that we're currently working on, and we'll have something to present. And the stuff I'm working on is based on existing benchmarks, for example. But the workshop, but part of the reason I would go through the effort to present that is because I want to interest people in the workshop. Too.
Yes, Robert, I think your talk is a really good fit, because I think it's important if we're going to discuss how we would improve the community if we know what tools already exist. So if you give a talk and you give us a tour of like, here is this benchmark, I have made it, it has these features, here's how you use it, here's what it's good for, here's what it's not good at, go forth and try something with it. Like that's the kind of thing that I want to hear.
Okay.
Personally, obviously not speaking for the group, but like, That's was my intention.
Okay. So let's see. So does anybody else see any kind of delineations or trends in these current the talks we have left? So we've kind of have the Chris Brown talk and the Joseph from Consensus talk put as workshops. Does anybody see any other clear delineations between the others?
I see a few projects are talking about what they're currently working on. Some of that might be valuable for the group. Some of that might not be valuable for the group. But the community does use Mithril. I think it is a good thing to listen to hear. But that's one commonality that I see.
Okay.
I have one comment. So I think this talk, I'm like really interested in this particular talk, which is the proxy re-encryption one, but I'm just questioning whether that fits in with the theme of the rest of the talks, which seem to be very much oriented around the state of the art with regards to security tools or things that could immediately help app developers while they're writing smart contracts. So I think the talk sounds really interesting, but the question I'm posing is whether it fits in with the theme of everything else that would be going on.
Sure. Yeah, definitely a reasonable suggestion. Yeah, the proxy re-encryption talk, I think I agree in that it is less around smart contract security, although key management is a topic that has come up in pretty much, I would say, 80% of the interviews that I've done with the community. And so, yeah, it could go either way. But if we do want to focus it more towards smart contract security for these for the lightning talks, that is totally reasonable as well, and that's a decision the community can make. Here's actually John Pacific is he's been added an attendee. I'm going to add him as a panelist and maybe let him speak to it. John, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Our talk on proxy re-encryption actually is we intended for it to be more focused on smart contract security. Typically, where it's just explaining how we can use proxy re-encryption to build sort of secure key management and how to actually utilize NewCipher to handle that. We aren't really proposing to talk a whole ton about how the NewCipher network works, mostly just how we use proxy re-encryption to do this.
Okay. Does anybody else have any strong opinions? I guess maybe is there anybody in this group who's on this call right now who's willing to not speak? Like feels like they're it'll be okay if they're not on stage. I do see Consensus has a potential for 2 slots now. They did have 3, so that's something to consider as well.
So I submitted a short abstract for a lightning talk, and I do notice that there's an overlap between one of the proposed workshop topics and some of the stuff that I would hope to be discussed based around the lightning talk that I proposed. So just a brief context. Mine was oriented around bug fixing in live smart contract systems, and what I would have talked about is basically our experiences with fixing a bug on mainnet, and there's been a ton of research and newfound techniques for upgrading smart contracts, whether it be proxy contracts or storage contracts and using that type of architecture. But there haven't really been that many live examples for developers to use as reference points for serving as a guide as to what is the best practice with approaching a security incident response when you know you have an upgrade mechanism. Like, how should you alert the community? How should you go about like that entire process? And like, what is the best practice with regards to approaching that process? So I proposed a lightning talk because I thought it'd be useful for dApp developers if more examples like this came about, and especially from auditors and other security professionals, if they could speak a little bit as to what their perspective is with regards to what's the best practice with regards to approaching this. But if this happens to be something that can be talked about at a workshop as well, that seems reasonable as well. But I feel like the topic in general could be helpful for dApp developers. Interested to hear what you guys think about that.
I would love to hear a case study. I think that's exactly what I want to see. Is I want to see, like, here's the state of practice today. I went to war and came back. Here's what I learned.
Do you think that would be better talked about via a lightning talk or in the workshop format as a group, Dan?
I mean, I think it's a critical problem that we need to have an answer for. Like, it's something that's not going away, and it should be a central focus, I think, of what we go to Berlin to work on. There's a huge opportunity for improvement there, and getting a really good story from Yanden about what they went through would set it off on the right foot.
Okay, so here's another maybe way to slice and dice it. Maybe the workshops could have lightning talk kinds of things that start with them. You know, so then mine could go into a workshop, and the other person's could go into a workshop as just right at the beginning.
So you're proposing instead of having these in the allotted lightning talks in the morning, we kind of kick off a workshop around this topic with a brief lightning talk.
I was just kind of, this was just a practical kind of thing, you know, to fit things in. I'm not prescribing. I don't know.
No, I was just trying to reiterate your proposal for understanding.
Sure, that's one possibility if that's what people want. But I was just saying that. So the workshops are in the afternoon, right? So there could be a lightning talk for the workshop, or a series of lightning talks for the workshop, right? And that way, you know. And the thing about that is, if you're interested in this and not that, you know, you'll be guaranteed to skip that lightning talk and get the other lightning talk or whatever.
I'm just concerned that we're running sort of short on time as we go into August, and I prefer to side with just more decisions being made rather than sort of trying to decide on structure. We did talk about structure last time. That's just nuisance. I do think maybe a way to decide is we just do it. I was in a community call in communities months ago, and it worked really well where we just kind of each had 2 or 3 votes, and then we can just go through, and then the ones who have maybe more votes are the ones that are for sure gonna have the lightning talk spot. I don't know, because that'll also start to show what we're all collectively trying to get out of lightning talks, and then what we're trying to learn. That's my thoughts. I don't know. I'd like to hear if anyone has any other thoughts on that.
Okay, but I actually don't have an opinion. I'm a newbie. I don't really have an opinion. And there are other people here who have strong opinions. So I won't vote, you know, and I'm cool with letting the other people.
No, I think if we do want to speed this up, I like the suggestion of just giving everybody like 5 talks they want to select and seeing what happens.
Okay. Do we want to like do that live over the Google Doc like right now, or is there some sort of method that would help us do that?
I mean, we can just each put just a capital I or a 1 at the end of the title, and make sure that we only limit it to a set number of votes. I mean, that's an easy way. I've seen it done using Trello before, but what is open right now is Google Docs, so that's
Okay, yeah, that seems reasonable to me. Perhaps we can try to do that in an hour from the end of this phone call. So we don't have to do it right now as we're in this phone call, but right now it is 11:34 Mountain Time. So by 12 p.m. Mountain Time, we'll all have cast our votes for lightning talks. And perhaps we can do the same thing for workshop topics. We'll discuss them a little bit more here as our next step, and then have the same process for that. Does anybody have any I can't live with that type feelings? Cool. So let's go ahead. Rocky?
It sounded like you said edit it now and then on the hour we discuss.
I was going to, so what I heard was that, or what I proposed, I guess, was that we would all, by 12 p.m. Mountain Time, have cast our 5 votes for the lightning talks we would most want to hear. And then myself and the other ETHSecurity organizers can take that and tally them. And you all can see it as well. You'll be able to see the doc. And I guess this is all just on honor code, like, don't be messing with other people's votes. And then we can go from there. If we need to, if there's like some tie, we have 9 or whatever talks, we can, maybe we should talk about what process is that. Maybe it's an executive decision made by the organizers, or if we can have another process, maybe another vote off on those 2 topics. Is there any opinions on that?
Great.
Okay, cool. So let's move into talking about workshops now. We've got about 20 of those for kind of like thrown out there, basically taken from the ideas that have come out of the interview process. Basically these are being filtered by the names that have been entered underneath the workshop as kind of like signaling that people are willing to or wanting to participate or help facilitate these workshops. So right now, there are a number that don't have any names underneath them. Like the whole tools section, like that's pretty massive. I don't know what a tools workshop would look like. I don't know if we would want to get down into a particular type, or whether we don't want to talk about that as a workshop currently, and focus on more of these kind of overarching big ideas, kind of like these guidelines type workshops, or how do we organize the security community type workshops? What do we do for the repo of knowledge? Talking about data privacy and security, key management, that sort of thing. Does anybody have any opinions on that? No opinions? Okay. Are we good with kind of having this same sort of voting model for the workshops that we're going to conduct with the lightning talks? Any dissenters on that?
I also want to make sure that the workshops do take a lot of work to get organized, and so if we go with voting, and if it's voted in, then the facilitator is committed to that. So lightning talk is you have to prepare a lot for the 10 minutes. Workshop is also a lot of work too. So that's all.
Right, agreed. I think that's one of the reasons we're trying to get these solidified today, if we can, so that we people who are going to be organizing these, facilitating these workshops or lightning talks can prepare.
So I don't think we really have to vote on the workshops, because as soon as there is a champion for one of the workshops and enough people who want to participate in the workshop, we can just have this workshop. As we last time discussed, the people can just vote with their feet. And yeah, I don't see a lot of workshops who have a lot of interest in them. I counted around 8 of them have names assigned. So let's just, I think the most important part is to have 1 or 2 people who are assigned to this workshop and to organize this workshop.
Yeah, we do have 12 that have names underneath them. And so it's a similar situation as the lightning talks. I guess we can take out those that don't have any names. Or we can just split down into smaller groups. But that again goes back towards the conversation we had last week about the organization, the process for the unconference. So I don't know if just saying like, hey, this workshop has a champion, we can just let it happen, is necessarily the path we want to go down. It could be. Are there any opinions? Okay. I think I would still prefer to have a like this voting process. But I do recognize that this is kind of like, if we can break down into smaller groups, that would be ideal, and let people vote with their feet. So I guess we're at an impasse, and I don't want to make any kind of executive choice here. So I would like to hear maybe some opinions on how we proceed. Okay, if no one's got any thoughts, then I think we'll go with the voting and break down into 8 workshops. And the idea is to have this as an unconference, and it's going to be pretty loose. So if there are other kind of micro groups that start to form and other conversations that happen, I think that's totally fine. We're just trying to block out kind of main topics. So again, we'll do the voting process by 12 p.m. Mountain Time. We'll have try to get it down to our 8 most popular topics.
So vote for 8 workshops and 5 lightning talks.
So there's going to be 8 lightning talks in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then 8 lightning talks or 8 workshops in the afternoon as main topics.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to get like, what are the highest impact efforts that we can start building momentum behind. So I think, things like guidelines might be really helpful. Talking about how are we going to organize this community? Do we have to segment ourselves away from the more like the lightning talk that was proposed by Joseph, having that as more of a lightning talk, like, and where are we going to store this repo of knowledge? How are we going to share that? I think those are going to be high impact workshops for the community, which will, that's kind of the point of this unconference, is to build these working groups and build momentum. Cool. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about now that we're kind of have that process defined, and we've got some coming to decisions here within the next hour or so?
So I would like to just clear up the theme of there seems to be like a theme for the unconference, which most of the stuff is focused on tooling and like helping auditors in their auditing process and helping developers secure their code and so on. But there's this another layer, which is like the layer of incentivizing people to actually care about security, right? And making security something that is understandable and legible for end users and so on. So that's like this meta economical or ecosystem level, which is something that our lightning talk falls into on the topic of like vulnerability markets and prediction markets and so on. And I was wondering if this like general area is something that that the attendees are interested in, or if the theme of the conference should be more focused on the tools themselves. Yeah.
I know personally, I see that as a tool for increasing security. It's a meta tool, but that's how I see it. I think it's definitely relevant. I think ultimately we only have a day, and there's the security ecosystem is very large, and there's a lot that we could talk about. And the purpose is to try to do as much as we can, but also just begin the conversation and really ignite the community and bring us all together.
I would like just this general topic of incentivization, like around securing smart contracts, being present on the conference, maybe in form of a workshop or something like that. It doesn't have to necessarily be like in the form of our talk or something like that, but just this general area. I think like I would like to have a discussion on it. Yeah, so that's my stance on it.
Okay. Anything else that people would like to see in the conference? I think it's a good place to voice. Like, we do want to talk about these prediction markets and kind of these meta tools. Like I think that's a good thing to voice, because I want to talk about that too. So making sure that as we vote, keeping that in mind would be good. Any other topics that people want to ensure or talk about that we haven't discussed today?
I mean, we're obviously pretty interested in assessment guidelines, but obviously it all depends on who wants to hear that. But we think it has high value for the community.
I know someone put under like one of the topics is like auditor augmentation instead of automation, and I think that would be like really interesting, and a lot of fruitful conversations can be had just from sharing our experiences and what we think could be in a tool that does this like augmenting auditing.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that's like probably under discussed right now in the security community, and we can probably get together even a couple bounties to see a tool made for this.
And also I think like an interesting topic would be like non-technical like methodology, auditing methodology, right? So like, for example, if people like to print out the code they are auditing, or I don't know, what's their like process, right? The like methodology for auditing, not necessarily like formalized or tool, but these heuristics, right? Auditing heuristics that people use in their practice. I don't know how to exactly like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of this would be super useful. I don't know if we'll have time to get into like each sharing how we all go through the process of auditing. So we will have more time at DevCon. So the idea of this is to get these big topics and then create these working groups and then continue the conversation at DevCon. There's also the Web3 Foundation guys are wanting to have these security kind of track, it seems like. And there's the guys over at East San Francisco are saying this too. So it seems like a lot of these different conferences that many people will be at, they can start organizing kind of these more frequent gatherings, and we can have these conversations. And it's also something we could talk about in the kind of like community organizing workshop. How often do we want to have these meetings? Do we want to have like a 2 or 3 day one next time, perhaps? I don't know. I'm just trying to, yeah, I think we're at the point of making decisions, and we're less about ideating for the unconference itself. And that's just the point I'm trying to make right now.
Yeah, just a general comment. I think it'd be nice if this event or other events strike a balance between providing valuable takeaways for auditors, which are clearly crucial members of the security community and the broader Ethereum ecosystem, and valuable takeaways for developers themselves. So just taking the tools category, for example, I think you could spend a lot of time digging into interesting things with how like an auditor can use a tool, how an auditor can improve tools. And then on the flip side of that, there's this part where it's like, from a developer's point of view who has like security in mind, like what are the valuable takeaways from them in terms of how they can immediately incorporate these types of tools into their workflow. So just general comment, I think it'd be nice if a balance is struck between these two types of valuable takeaways so that both members can benefit a lot from these types of gatherings.
Cool, thanks for sharing that. So yeah, at this point, I think we're just going to proceed with the voting process to be done by 12 p.m. Mountain Time. Or I suppose 1 p.m. Mountain Time. I was saying 12, but it's already 11:50. 12 p.m. would just be the end of this call. So 1 p.m. I apologize about that, everybody. 1 p.m. Mountain Time to get all your votes in for for workshops and lightning talks. At this point, we have 10 minutes. Does anybody want to discuss anything else?
Quickly, how many votes do we agree to have for each? So 5 for workshop and 5 for lightning?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Should we maybe just put our names as a vote to like prevent any misunderstanding? Like instead of an I or something like that.
Sure. We can do them named or have them anonymous. Or does anybody can't live with writing your name, or do you have anybody have any objections to that? Cool. So yeah, we'll write our names. Write your name next to 5 topics that you would like to see. So the lightning talk and as a workshop. So another announcement I want to make while you all are here. Myself, a couple of the other organizers, and a couple other people in the security community are acting as reviewers for DevCon submissions. And the deadline for those DevCon submissions is August 19th, and that's handed down by the Ethereum Foundation. So we'd love all of you to submit and submit proposals for talks at DevCon. You can either submit a proposal for a talk, a proposal for a workshop, or a proposal for a working group. And let's see, I've got the link for the blog post here for the call for participation. I'm going to post it to the chat. So yeah, this is just kind of a reminder to the community, like, you know, there is a security track, and we love to have you all present at DevCon. Any questions on that?
I have one question regarding ETH Berlin, because there is also a review or some process to get tickets there. Do you have anything to do with them, or because it could be useful to work on the ETH Berlin hackathon?
Yep. Go ahead.
I think the selection process was already finished, at least for the mentors, because I received like invitation as a mentor. So I think they already have the attendee list finalized, but I'm not.
Volunteer. I did that for ETH Denver. It was pretty great. And I think that's maybe the only avenue, but I don't know.
Yeah, so MP is in the Telegram chat. for the eSecurity community group. She is, I think, leading organization for East Berlin, and is a key member, at least if she's not leading it. So if you have any questions on attending East Berlin, I would reach out to her. But yeah, other than that, the rest of us are not helping organize the East Berlin event. We're just kind of adding this security unconf onto the beginning.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, everybody. We've got 6 minutes left. Unless there's any other burning things or any other announcements, we can probably call it for now and then go vote on our topics. Anything else? Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate all your time, the effort that you're putting in to make this awesome. Look forward to seeing you all soon.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Cheers.